Dr. Kethvar adjusted the neural monitoring equipment with his 4 delicate appendages, each movement precise despite his growing unease. The human specimen, no, subject, he corrected himself, lay strapped to the examination table, unconscious, but alive. The Galactic Research Council had been very specific. Determine the pain threshold of this newly discovered species called humans to establish proper interrogation protocols. Every sentient species they had encountered possessed a measurable pain limit, a point where the nervous system would shut down to prevent permanent damage. The elegant Zephyrians collapsed at 47 units. The warrior-like crone endured up to 89 units before unconsciousness claimed them. Even the notoriously resilient Thrakari couldn't withstand more than 156 units of neural stimulation. Beginning test sequence, Kethvar announced to his research team. Subject designation Human 7. Initial stimulation at 25 units. The human stirred slightly as the pain inducers activated. His vital signs spiked, but remained stable. His eyes fluttered open, remarkably calm blue orbs that seemed to study his surroundings with curious intelligence rather than fear. Fascinating, murmured Dr. Yilnoth from her observation station. No panic response increasing to 50 units. The human's jaw tightened, a thin line of what their research indicated was perspiration appearing on his forehead. But still, those blue eyes remained alert, even defiant. He spoke in his native tongue, something that sounded almost like a challenge. Translation indicates the subject is asking about our credentials, Yilnoth reported, her voice tinged with disbelief. Kethavar's gill slits fluttered nervously, increased to 75 units. The human's back arched slightly, muscles straining against the restraints. But instead of the screams they expected, he began to speak again, rhythmically, almost musically. He's singing, their linguist Dr. Thon reported from his console. It appears to be something called a cadence, a military marching song. At 100 units, the human's singing grew louder, more determined. At 150 units, the threshold that would have rendered a Thrakari unconscious, the human looked directly at Kethvar and smiled. Actually smiled. This is impossible, Kethvar whispered. Increased to 200 units. The human's body convulsed, but his eyes never lost their sharp focus. Blood trickled from where he had bitten his lip, but when he spoke, again Thon translated it as, "That all you got, Doc?" The research team exchanged horrified glances. They were now approaching levels that would cause permanent neural damage to any known species. Yet the human remained not just conscious, but seemingly amused. Perhaps, Yilnoth suggested weakly, their nervous system is simply different, less sensitive. Kethvar checked the readings again. The human's pain receptors were functioning normally. In fact, they appeared more sensitive than most species they had tested. The neural feedback indicated he was experiencing every unit of stimulation in full. He simply endured it. At 300 units, the human began to laugh, a sound that chilled the research team to their cores. Not the laugh of madness, but something worse. The laugh of someone who had experienced far worse and survived. Run full biographical scan, Kethvar ordered desperately. The data that appeared on their screens made their blood run cold. This particular human, designation Marcus Chen, had survived something called seer training, had endured interrogation by his own species' enemies, had walked on fractured bones for kilometers to reach safety, had continued fighting with injuries that would have killed most of their research subjects. But it was the cultural data that truly horrified them. Images flashed across their screens. Humans running on damaged limbs, continuing to fight with mortal wounds. Mothers lifting vehicles off trapped children through sheer will. Soldiers charging. Machine gun nests despite overwhelming odds. Athletes competing with broken bones. And then came the historical records. Humans who had endured years of torture without breaking. Prisoners who had survived conditions that defied biological possibility. Soldiers who had fought to the last breath against impossible odds. Explorers who had endured starvation, frostbite, and dehydration that would have killed any other species. "Shut it down," Kethvar whispered. "Sir?" "Shut it down," he roared, his voice cracking with species-specific harmonics of pure terror. The pain inducers powered down, and Marcus Chen slowly flexed his fingers, working feeling back into his limbs. When he spoke, his voice was steady, almost conversational. Thon translated with a trembling voice. He says, "I've had worse headaches. You guys need better equipment." Kethvar stared at the readings one final time. They had reached 312 units, enough to kill most species outright, and the human was offering constructive criticism. "What are they?" Yilnoth whispered. Kethvar began composing his report to the Galactic Research Council, his appendages shaking, as he typed, "Recommendation: immediate cessation of all hostile activities toward human species. Pain-based interrogation methods ineffective. Humans appear to possess no measurable pain threshold. Their capacity for endurance exceeds all known biological parameters." He paused, then added a personal note that would change galactic policy forever. "They do not break. They do not yield. They simply endure, adapt, and overcome. We are not dealing with a typical sentient species. We are dealing with something unprecedented. A species that has weaponized suffering itself." Marcus. Chen was still smiling when they released his restraints. As he sat up rubbing his wrists, he looked directly at Kethvar and said something that needed no translation. A simple thumbs up and a nod of acknowledgement, as if to say, "Good game." Later, when news of the failed experiment reached the Galactic Council, they made an unprecedented decision. Instead of conquest, they chose diplomacy. Instead of subjugation, they offered alliance. Because they had learned the most terrifying truth in galactic history. Humans didn't just survive. They thrived because of it. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy.